Hello, welcome to Lemon Studios, where we talk anything and everything entertainment. I'm, of course, the Lemon himself, Zeke Lemon, and this is my review for The Devil Wears Prada 2. But before we get into that, let's get the house clean out of the way. Share them to leave a like, comment below, let me know your thoughts on The Devil Wears Prada 2. And, of course, hit that subscribe button as it helps me grow into my YouTube career. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, all that out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? So, The Devil Wears Prada. I absolutely adore the first film. It's one of those, the first one came out in 2006, so I was about 9 at the time, yeah, because I was born in 97. And as a kid, I believe my little sister, my older sister, took her little brother, is what I was trying to say, to the first one, and I had a good time while watching it as a child. And then before heading into this one, I rewatched it for the first time as an adult, and boy, that movie still holds up very well. So to say I was looking forward to this movie is an understatement. Huge fan of Anne Hathaway, love Emily Blunt. Meryl Streep, to me, is the greatest performer of all time. Man or woman, it doesn't matter. The buck stops with her. Really, truly, to me, the only performer who has literally done every single genre. I can't recall if she's done a horror movie, but if not, that is the only one that she hasn't done, and she has already smashed it out. I think she's the performer with the most Oscar nominations. I mean, watching her is like watching an artist paint. You know what I mean? Like that's just how good she is. And rewatching the first one, I fell in love with her again. Also a huge fan of Stanley Tucci. So a lot was riding on this film. It was one of my top 10 most anticipated films heading into this year. And going into it and watching it, and when it starts, I will say I was a little bit worried in the beginning. I say overall this is a movie of a tale of two halves in a lot of ways. Now, I will say this. If you are someone who didn't care for the first one, is this one going to change your mind? I don't think so. I think this is a movie for people who look, this is for the people who enjoyed the first one. We are continuing that story with them, and even then we're going to ham it up a lot more. And for the most part, to me, it worked. Like I said, it was a tale of two halves. The first half, however, was too ham-fisted with nostalgia all the way through. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand you got to do some callbacks, and there is a lot of opportunities to do said callbacks. I'm not mad at it. It's just after a while, it became one too many times for me. Like, yeah, sure. Andy going over to the second assistant and be like, I've been where you're at, and doing those types of nods, that's fine. Hell, you can even do the callback to the blue belts, right? But after a while, again, it just became a little too much, and it just felt like, okay, we're just gonna remember as opposed to telling a story that we want to tell, because again, after a while, I was like, get to the story that you want to do. Now, once it does get into the story that it wants to tell, or we start to enter the second act, I think the movie really starts to pick up a lot of ways. Performances, no one missed a beat, no one phoned it in whatsoever either. Anne Hathaway does a great job as Andy. Emily Blunt does a great job as Emily. Nigel, Stanley Tucci, amazing. Much more of a presence in this one. Same with Meryl Streep as Miranda. Miranda, again, had that presence, that aura within the first one. But I don't think she was in it as much as she was in this one. In a lot of ways, you know, she's almost a lead in this film as opposed to supporting. It is really, this one really does feel more like a quartet as opposed to, yes, this is Andy's film. And for the most part, it still is, but it does focus on those four all the way through. I think out of the four, Emily Blunt is probably the one who has the least amount to do out of all of them, but for the story that they were telling, it made a lot of sense, especially with all the characters are at. However, my issue with Meryl Streep, even though I love seeing her on screen a lot, right? Like I said, greatest performer of all time. I do think she is a little too, I don't know necessarily what the word is, chopped down quite a bit. Now, there was an explanation as to why Miranda doesn't go as hard as she does. There's multiple different theories as to why she doesn't go as hard as she does. But the one of them that I thought was presenting as a great ongoing bit throughout the whole entire film was that, well, there's HR and people complain. So yeah, she can't just throw the coat on the desk anymore. She can't just call at will any single time. Like, there are cutoff hours at some point where now she does have to kind of do things on her own, and she can't just lay in on someone and just really hurt their feelings that we absolutely loved from part one. There's a scene where they're all in a meeting and, you know, she's going to start going in on them, and then her assistant has to go, no, you can't do that. And we go back to it one time, but I really do think there was a big missed opportunity to not go back to it. Again, it could have been a really good runner throughout the whole entire film for me. And also, there is the underlying that, you know, she is getting up there, and maybe that fire isn't necessarily there anymore. And what is she to do? And when it's on that route of it, on that, oh, she's a little tired and she probably doesn't really care anymore, to me, it just didn't necessarily work. I liked more of the route of this girl still has that fire. She still wants to lay it into you because she wants the absolute best, but she can't anymore due to how corporate is now. I would have liked to play with that a little bit more as opposed to what we did. Everyone else, though, I think they handled them very well for the most part. They do this thing in the film where they kind of hint at one of them is going to go heel. Now, in Devil Wears Prada 1, Miranda was obviously the villain, right? But I appreciated how it was not that she was antagonistic, it's just how the world is. In part one, it's a true coming of age story in a lot of ways, and it's also a cautionary tale on corporate America. Hey, if you work hard, you can get to where you want to be. You can get that admiration that you want from your superior. You can get this, you can get that. You can really climb that ladder. You can go to Paris. You can jump the line. But there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of foots to be stepped on, and you're going to hurt a lot of people's feelings. Are you willing to do that? You know, that cautionary tale within it. Here, in part two, I couldn't really tell you overall what the story that they were trying to tell in here. Again, they kind of hint at, you know, what goes around comes around between the four. And, you know, there is a little bit of a heel turn when it comes to one of within our quartet within it. All understanding, again, you know, all's fair in love and war. But at the same time, it's a little bit of that, but it doesn't really get pushed to the front of the line. Or it's also a case of how the internet is really taking over, and, you know, AI is going to be here to stay, and that's why corporations are downsizing. We also touch on that. It's also a story of, well, you know, it's not really necessarily about what you write anymore, is how much engagement you can have within that, with how social media is, how many clicks are you getting. I don't care if the work is good, are people seeing it? And we also touch on that. And again, it's just like, it's a little, it's all over here, and we're like juggling them throughout the whole entire film, where I think we probably should just locked in on one, maybe two of them, because again, the hands were very full as the movie progresses. And there's also a love storyline with Andy that they present in this. No disrespect to the actor that they have playing as a love interest. And I didn't even necessarily mind when we cut back to it. But I would say we could probably cut that whole entire, because I don't know what full impact the movie what full impact that storyline has on the film as a whole, as opposed to if we would have cut that out, that all of those scenes, because for the most part they're pretty separate from the rest of the film. Cut those, use the time from those films to flesh out some of the main stories that the movie really wants to communicate on, where you could tell that's where their heart is, and expand on those a little bit. Maybe get a little bit more fleshed out film all the way through. Now, I know I am really dogging on this film for the most part. I got a lot of criticisms going here and there and everywhere, but I had a lot of fun while watching it. And at the end of the day, that's what a movie needs to do. That is always the first thing that I ask myself when I come out of it. Was I entertained while I was watching it? Yes. Was I heavily entertained? for the most part, I would say yes. Do I have qualms with this film? Absolutely. What film doesn't have its qualms, and does this one have its ones that stand out a little bit more? Yeah, for sure. Now, out of the two, because I know this is like, well, is it better than part one? To do the comparison, which is The Thief of Joy, I do probably lean slightly towards part one just because I felt like that was a tighter film. However, there are things within part two that I do appreciate a lot more. I like the expansion of Emily quite a bit. Again, you know, Emily in the first one is probably least amount of screen time out of the four as well, and the same over here in part two in a lot of ways. But again, she has a lot more screen time, and when those four are together, it to me is absolute magic. And I also think this ending is significantly better than part one's. I love everything about that first one until it gets to the third act. I just think it's overall a bad ending to me. To me here, it's flipped. The beginning part is a little bit of a struggle for me, but then once we get to the ending and we get to that final note, regardless of all the problems I have with the film, I couldn't help but smile and be like, I had a lot of fun, and I'm actually going to miss these characters now that the journey is over. So within that, if I had to rank this on a lemon scale where it goes sour lemon at the bottom, expired store-bought lemonade, bad behavior is good. Store-bought lemonade, that's not expired, good, but hey, there is some bad. Lemonade, it's a movie. Freshly squeezed lemonade, very good. Minor problems here and there. And then strawberry lemonade at the very top because that's the best kind of lemonade. I would say The Devil Wears Prada 2 is very solid lemonade. Again, slow start, extra storyline that I think we could have cut out, and again, hands very full with the overall messaging of the film. That's what brings it down to the lemonade, but the performances are so good, man. Like, honestly, if I watch enough time, it could probably get to that freshly squeezed, but right now I feel pretty comfortable giving it just the lemonade for now. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I had a great time with it. It was great seeing these four characters together again. I am really happy to see how successful this movie's doing so far. Like, this movie was the closest I've ever gotten to like a real true sold out theater. And I'm looking at movie times because I'm actually thinking about going to see it again. I'm going to catch up on some movies that I missed tomorrow. And I'm looking through, and there are hardly any seats available. So if we want to do a round three, now that we don't have to do the nostalgia bait anymore, and we can flesh out some of these newer characters, like you had Simone Ashley on your cast. This is just a problem for me. Like, it's a very talented cast all the way through, and they don't really get showcased a lot. Also very cameo heavy too. But anyway, but you had Simone Ashley, and she's in it throughout a lot, but she's just in the background. And you don't just use Simone Ashley, you showcase her. And I was just like, why aren't we giving her more to do? I'm such a fan of her stuff. So she is much more than just a pretty face. You know what I mean? And hopefully, if we already get a round three, which again, this movie looks like it's going to make a lot of money, which we could justify it for. We get rid of the nostalgia stuff. We can flesh out some storylines here and there, and we can showcase some of the newer characters a little bit more. Again, Simone Ashley's character, I can't remember the character's name because again, that's how brief she is. The movie of having like actual lines instead of just staying behind Miranda in a lot of ways. Then I think we have an opportunity where three could be better than one. I really do believe that. But yeah, let me know y'all's thoughts on it down in the comment section. Leave a like if you made this far within a review. I do greatly appreciate it. And hit that subscribe button as I am trying to grow into my YouTube career. And don't forget to squeeze the days, guys, because life is too short not to give your all. So squeeze every opportunity that you can. Until next time, I'll see you here at Lemon Studios.